it's gonna.
This meeting is being recorded.
You have to say yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, dude, I was. That's so fun. Kid, fine. My kids are a pain in the ass when they're home. Everything is. Am I loud in your ear?
No,
No. Okay.
not at all.
So, anyways, I was speaking to a buddy last night about this. What a shit show. Like this is, well, I'll tee it up in a second, but I don't even know where to go and what to say because there's so many things that we
Listen
can.
to that clip I sent yesterday.
I did. Like that guy, like, so it's funny, that guy's not talked about in the documentary at all.
No.
Is there any reason why?
I don't know, man. I just don't think like it was really necessary in the documentary, but you know, I thought it was just hilarious the fact that some guy just decided to show up in a dressing room one day and beelines out of the penalty box and decides to go fight the coach.
Hold on, what do you mean? He just kind of showed up? We'll get to that. Like, just
yeah, no, he didn't show up. Like we knew he was. They signed him out of the West Coast. I think it was the West Coast Hockey League.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And his obviously he had you know, he was given orders to do something, and he did it. And then just whittled off into the sunset, and again got a lifetime ban from the United Hockey League.
He got a lifetime ban. Like he got a life. Okay, so we'll bring that up in a second. Anyways, so ready? I'm gonna tee it up.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Nick, here for joining me. Let me just set the table for my next guest, Nick Bilotto, buddy from the West Island here in Montreal, former professional hockey player. Drafted by St. Louis in the 6th round, and now does his teaching with Bilotto Hockey Performance, teaching a defense school, shooting, to everything for kids. And at the same time, he's also working as an agent with the Sports Corporation. But the funny thing, we're going to get to all that eventually and talk about what Nick's doing today. And before I let him speak, I just got to say how we got to this. And you know, during COVID we had an opportunity to watch everything on, whether it's Netflix or whether it's Crave or whether it's Disney or Prime, and I'm getting ready to take off on a flight, and I put a little screenshot on my Instagram about what I'm about to look at, and I get a text from Nick, and it's like, well, hey man, have you seen the documentary on the Danbury Trashers? And I'm like, no, I got no idea what you're talking about. And he says, you got to give it a watch. And it's only a tip of the iceberg. So let me just tee up what this is. It's on Netflix, and it's called Untold Crime Stories and Penalties. And it's about a hockey team called the Danbury Trashers, which it's a team that was in the United Hockey League. And it was the story of, I'm going to tread lightly with the words we're going to use, but a mobster. We can call him that. Nick, what words can we use? Because you're Italian, so at least you know the words that we can or can't use. We can use mobster.
Yeah, I can influential mobster. Yeah, you can use that.
Okay, so
it's well known.
Now it is anyways. But at the time it was his son. His name is Mr. Gallante, James Gallante, and it goes, if you actually go into Wikipedia, it starts off the Danbury Trashers is a defunct United Hockey League, UHL, ice hockey team that was located in Danbury, Connecticut. It was first established in 2004 as an expansion team named for its owner's business in waste management. James Gallante purchased the franchise rights for $500,000 and named his 17-year-old son, AJ, president and general manager. So just so if you watch it on Netflix, it kind of starts off with, it describes the family a little, and then it describes AJ, and AJ's this kid that loves wrestling, loves the WWF back in the day, which we watched, now it's WWE, grew up loving and watching. But then his life changed when he watched the movie called The Mighty Ducks. So he took, so he falls in love with hockey, but he has this wrestling side to him. And he plays that way, gets hurt at 17, and he's crushed. And his dad wants to do something to kind of continue that hockey dream for him. So he has the means necessary. He buys him a hockey team. And At 17. Well, he was your president and GM at 17.
Yeah.
And you were how old at the time?
2004 is the year of the lockout. I was what, 26?
How did those conversations go?
Well, the year of the lockout, basically the year before I was bouncing around the American Hockey League, and that summer everything just kind of slowed down. And I got a phone call one day from an old buddy of mine. You know him, Bruce Richardson, and he asked me what I was doing the upcoming season, and I was like, not sure yet. And he goes, listen, there's this team in Danbury in the United Hockey League. And I knew about the United Hockey League because I had played there my first year as a junior in Elmira. And I was like, okay, what are they offering? What's the story? He goes, well, you're going to have to come down here and like meet the owner and stuff. And I'm like, okay. So I got in my car, drove down, and I spent the weekend out in Danbury.
No, it's not a training camp. We just want you to come down and meet the owner.
Yeah, no training camp. Just come meet the owner, meet the facilities, come and see the town. I'm like, okay. So I got in my car, drove to Danbury. So I get this address. I'm thinking it's the rink, or some kind of building. I'm at this waste management company.
Oh, so I didn't know this. You actually went to the waste management company. You went there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, then set the table to all this. Again, Mr. Gallante owned the biggest waste management company in the entire East Coast. And this is I kind of jumped ahead of thing with bringing Nick in for a quick second because there's too much to give in. But Gallante eventually gets. They were using him kind of as a. There's so many storylines here. I don't want to cut you off. Let me just Cole's notes before I bring you back in, Nick, for a quick second. Yeah. So he purchases this hockey team, gives it to his son, and it's going great and whatever. But the thing is with Mr. Gallante, they've been trying to get him for the last couple of years because he's kind of in pictures and in line with the Genovese family out of New York. So they have him in some pictures, and they want to use him to try to get to the Genovese family. Am I saying that right, Bilotto?
Yeah.
The Genovese family.
There you go.
But what they actually end up realizing is that Gallante has actually been cleaning money through his companies and through this hockey team. And the stories you're going to find out in the next half hour are crazy. He eventually gets arrested by the mascot of the team having his phone tapped. They catch a whole bunch of mobsters. I'm using this term lightly because I'm afraid of myself. Mobsters, because the mascot of the team had his phone tapped. It's an absolutely crazy story. They brought in a bunch of hockey players. They brought in Nick, brought in a bunch of players. We're going to talk about them in a second. And he was overpaying them. There was a salary cap of $225 million. He paid $225,000. Sorry. He gave his players up to $750. He had the wives of players working for the waste management company. After 2 years, everything came crashing down, and the father ends up getting 82 months in jail, and parts of the Genovese family as well. It's just an absolutely crazy story, but the hockey part of it is even better because Nick played for a general manager that was 17 years old, and they bring you in. Go ahead. Our buddy Bruce Richardson convinces you to drive down to Connecticut to go to a waste management company to talk to a 17-year-old who's going to be your general manager. Yeah,
basically. So finally I get to the waste management company, and I'm just like really confused, but I say, hey, listen, let's make the drive. I'm here. So I walk into the office, and as you see on the documentary, you see Jimmy in his white t-shirt, his cowboy boots, You got AJ wearing his ball cap backwards. He's got about $80,000 of jewelry in his ears, and then you got good old T-Bone Pompasello.
So is it like what we've seen in the documentary? By the way, again, the name is we should get royalties for this. Untold Crime and Penalties. It's on Netflix. Like the way they look is, and they are played out exactly by them, anyways. But that was them in every day.
Yeah, it's an everyday thing.
Okay, so
great
you walk
people.
Yeah, great people.
Great people. They opened their hearts out. It was they really did a lot for that community, right? So
yeah.
But let's go back to that.
So you walk in, they drive you in. Yeah. Bruce Richardson. They convince. We got to talk to Bruce about this as well. They convince Bruce to convince you to drive down, and you go for everyone else, it's normally agents are involved or so you speak to the general manager, or it's a phone call, or it's a fax back then, or whatever it is in negotiations. You drive into a waste management company.
That's it. So we're sitting there. So I walk in the office and sit down, and Jimmy asks me pretty much. He goes, "Listen, we're interested to have you play for our team. We heard a lot of good things about you." I was like, "Okay." And the next question was thinking would be, some kind of negotiation or whatever. It was, so how much do you want? And I'm like, is this a trick question or, so now I'm sitting there trying to calculate in my head what I want to make in in the United Hockey League, which was, the nickname we used to call it the U-Haul League or the You Had It League,
You had it. I never heard of the U-Haul was what we all did, but the You Had It. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, the You Had It League. So I throw a number out there, swing for the fences, hopefully hit a home run type thing, obviously not NHL money, but they agree. And I'm like, before they just agreed, they all looked at each other, to give the okay, and while I'm sitting there, just to give you a little quick, after I gave the price, I turn around and I see his picture signed by James Gandolfini.
I was going to get to that.
And it says to the original Soprano. And I was like, all right. So now I go back to just waiting for their answer. And they're like, okay, it's good. Then Jimmy decides to go into his drawer, takes out a pile of money, throws it on the desk, goes, "Here's your signing bonus." And he goes, "Let's go to lunch." I'm like, probably the easiest negotiation I've ever done in my life,
And he just kind of, and just put money on the table and said, "Here you go.
Yeah. Here's your signing bonus." I heard some of the guys in the documentary saying it was up to 10 grand. Mine was probably about half of that, but
and just a cash on the table like that.
Yeah.
Here's your signing bonus.
Yeah.
So then for people that understand the U-Haul, so it goes the NHL, American Hockey League, and then there's a whole bunch of leagues kind of in that East Coast, United Hockey League, Western Hockey. There's a whole bunch underneath the American Hockey League. So there's league, and there's different branches of where they are because of where the American Hockey League team is and the affiliate. So a lot of them are in the East Coast. And this is a court just not too far from Hartford where you played in the American Hockey League. So he puts money down on the table. And you have to see the picture in the documentary, but it's actually James Gandolfini, the actual show from The Sopranos, all of them there. And it's like you said, to the real Sopranos or whatever.
Yeah, the original Soprano, and
that's what they say. There's rumors to the movies the show is actually based off the Gallante family. Is there any truth to that?
Well, it's all speculation, right?
Right.
But when you see that picture, the original, the original, and you're like, me being Italian growing up, and I kind of started putting two and two together really fast. But then again, you don't ask questions, and
why didn't you ask? Like, okay, you never ask questions to you can't ask to 17-year-old general manager. Like, what was it like? He's 17, so the Mr.
Well, AJ, great kid back then, didn't know much about the game. He loved the game, had a passion for the game. You saw that it was basically overwhelmed in what he was doing.
Right.
A lot of strings were being pulled from the back, but he was really working hard to put on a team. He wanted to win the championship team. At the same time, I think he wanted to be really tough. They wanted to follow the Yankees model of being the evil empire, the original bad boys of hockey. That was like all the terms that we'd be using all the time. Back then the Yankees were known as the evil empire, buying pretty much all the top talent and trying to beat all the teams. But not only were they trying to do that, they were trying to beat up everybody too at the same time. Good old Broad Street bully effect to it too.
Well, that was kind of the thing that they talked about as well. His son, again, AJ, and again, I'm just doing this from watching the show, and I've watched it so many times because I'm just fascinated with it. Here's a kid that loved WWE wrestling, used to make videos in his backyard of wrestling, and then like wrestling his buddies and smashing each other onto like boxes and stuff outside in the backyard. And then he watches the Mighty Ducks and he falls in love with hockey. And when he decides to take over this team, or sorry, when he's given this team, he wants it to be a combination of the Mighty Ducks as a group and WWE. And that's exactly what he created. He went and got the top end talent and the toughest bunch of guys that the list is unbelievable. Like, it's absolutely crazy. And every player that was brought in, to your knowledge, did they go through the same negotiations that you went through?
Pretty much. Everyone I talked to went to some, at some extent, had to go meet Jimmy at the waste management office. He had no office at the rink, so we all knew where that place was. Later on, as the season went on, we had a lot of meetings there. I was I was one of the assistant captains back then. So all the captains used to meet on Friday, and it used to be called the War Room. And we used to go over the weekend, and it wasn't really much about playing hockey. It was what was going to go on, in the behind the scenes. It was like basically wrestling, And after our first meeting, I sat there and I looked around. I'm like, I looked at Bruce, I looked at all the other captains. I was like, I don't know, man. This is just a little too far fetched, but hey, let's run with it, see how it goes,
Like, does he say to you, like, was there a meeting like, okay, Bruce, you're going to spear this guy. Nick, you're going to jump on that guy. Let's fucking destroy them. Let's get out there and beat like, did he get off? Was it like that? All fired up and like, I want you to kick the shit out of that guy. You're going to spear him. I want necks broken. Like, was it like that? Or was it like,
yeah, pretty much. Like, once he started knowing the teams and he started hating the teams, like we had this rivalry with the Adirondack Frostbite, and they were owned by Steve Levy and what was his name?
Steve Levy, the from ESPN?
ESPN
Darren Pang?
And what's that?
Darren Pang? No, another.
Yeah, I know, just Steve Levy and what was his? I'm drawing a blank here.
Doesn't matter.
Barry Melrose.
Barry Melrose. The suit and the hair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Steve Levy and Barry Melrose owned the Adirondack Frostbite, right?
Yeah.
So they didn't really respect James Gallante, or Jimmy. You want to call him Jimmy? You can call him Jimmy. Didn't really.
I call him Mr. Galante because I've seen the video. So it's Mr. Galante to me. You're on a different relationship, but it's Mr. Galante to me. But yeah, and that's one of the things that, again, we're not doing this any justice because you have to watch it. And it's only, you said only the tip of the iceberg. Let's go back to this. Were you there for the first game?
Yeah.
You were in the lineup for the first game. So in the documentary, supposedly, and this is why we were talking to you. Well, because you're really good looking as well with a great hairdo. Mr. Gallante is up top in the rink, and he calls down to the bench to a player on the bench who supposedly the phone gets passed to. They call him Wingnut, but it was Brad Wingfield, and there's stories about this guy. We're going to talk about him in a second, but the story was, and in the doc, and I don't know if it's happened or not, so you're my voice of reason. I want you to drop the gloves the moment the game starts. So supposedly that he was given a phone while he's on the bench, and he's told, I want you to drop your gloves to start the game. And that's how the season started.
Pretty much, during the national anthem, that phone rang. I remember being on the. I think I was on the bench. I didn't start. And I didn't know what the conversation was, but as soon as I saw Brad get on the ice, you knew that it was gonna,
No, but there was actually a call down to the bench.
Yeah.
And did it happen besides that one time during the year?
No. We it evolved. They even got even better. It became, like you see the eye in the sky in the NHL. It became where the assistant coach had an earpiece to one of Jimmy's bodyguards. So
hold on. Jimmy would tell the bodyguard, and the bodyguard would tell the assistant coach what he wanted to happen.
Yeah.
So and like legit.
Jimmy, like PJ, I'm gonna explain you something. Jimmy was like the way the rink was built in Danbury. There was two private boxes. There was one for distinguished guests, we'll call it, and there was Jimmy's box. And the way the two boxes were made, they were pushed so far up in front that when Jimmy used to sit in there, he looked like Caesar. He would stand there, and the only thing he'd be missing to do once in a while was to see if the thumb would go up
or down.
And when you were losing, you saw Jimmy's facial expressions never really changed, but when you were losing, you were in trouble. When you were winning, things were kind of a little more lighter. But yeah, Jimmy would stand there, and shots were being called. Were
you ever called?
Had the fortune of being asked. No, tough to be called when you're like the seventh toughest guy in the team.
I know.
I
It's actually crazy. Like I have all these names written down, but for people that are watching this, again, you have to see it on Netflix to see some of these names. But I played at a time when there was a lot of tough guys, and Nick is what, you're 6'2", 220 about when you were playing, and you're saying you're one of the seventh toughest guys, and Nick's crazy, wicked, crazy tough. So he's saying it to be polite. But some of these guys, like Bruce Richardson, by the way, was their top scorer this first year. And Bruce is smaller than I am, and I'm 5'10", but he still had 138 penalties. He played that role of being a very skilled player, but kind of stuck in the world of back then hockey was you had to be 6'2", 6'3". And Bruce was a small forward that had a little fire in him. And I played against him in the A few times, and he was in Hershey, and he had that fire, just not the size, right? And it was a time when guys were big. And this first year, by the way, they broke all kinds of penalty minute records for the U-Haul. Mario LaRock these are all 271 penalty minutes. Roman Endure, who I played with in Hartford, also known as the Nigerian Nightmare, we're going to come back to him in a second. By the way, when people have nicknames, they're crazy ass tough. Like you shit yourselves in warm up tough when someone has a nickname. Do you have a nickname?
No, it's Billy was my nickname, and I just stuck with that.
Yeah, we don't have. That means we're okay, but we're not like, you're not tough. When you have a nickname, Nigerian Nightmare, Brad Wingfield, which we're going to talk about Wingnut in a second, because it's a lot of the show is on Brad, who breaks his ankle. And anyways, Francis Belanger, another super tough guy, played in the National Hockey League. He only played 13 games in 35 minutes, but still super tough. John Marasti, also nasty Marasti. He's all over the internet, YouTube, fight sites. He still played in the Senior Hockey League. Not a big guy either, but crazy. Actually, he was a big guy. Crazy thick, crazy tough. Crazy tough. Dave McIsaac, Stephen Pete. Of course, I had a fight or two with Stephen Pete. Garrett Burnett led the American Hockey League for years in fighting. Chad Wagner, who actually, you're going to tell the story. You're going to jump out, tell a story about Chad Wagner, because it's not in the actual documentary, but he played 3 games and have 75 penalty minutes. And Frank Bialowas. I want a story on both of those guys, because we can go through all of them. So how tough were you guys? Like, I don't even know where to put you on this list, because
I don't even rate in that list, because
it's crazy.
We played in a time where, line brawls, full-fledged 20-on-20 brawls, fighting was normal in the league, and some of these guys are just monsters, I don't even rate myself in there. I've crossed paths with some of these guys at some point in my hockey career, but I never go to war like some of these guys would go every night. And the toughness on our team, I think you even missed Jeff State. Jeff was like 6'7". He was the Rangers.
Right.
He was just in college.
63 games, 156 penalty minutes, 7 points.
Yeah. He was, he's another guy. I
didn't even know these guys. I'm taking the ones that I know that were crazy tough. And that's just guys that craziness. And we're going to tell me.
Oh, we had, I remember one game, there was one game against Flint. Robbie Nichols pulled his team off the ice because they were just getting manhandled. They had nobody in their roster, and we were just beating them up all night.
Just beating them up.
Yeah, just beating them up. That's what it was, pretty much. We scared you from the moment that you knew that you were playing us on your calendar. The whole drive into Danbury, during warm up, you did not want to piss off anybody so much that I remember I was looking for a fight one night, because I hadn't fought in a while. I was like, I'm like, I'm going to lose my, my street credit type thing.
Right.
So I'm going, how am I going to get a fight here? Because all these guys are so scared and nobody wants to fight when we get into our building. We literally had to basically grab somebody, beat them up. That's what it was at some point, unless there was one guy in the other team that wanted to, test himself.
How did it work? So how did it, because when I was in the A, which was, first of all, when you go to the National Hockey League, there's like a couple tough guys. American Hockey League, there's that many more. And then the league underneath, there's that many more, because every team's hopefully one or two pop up and they go to the next level. Then at that level, hopefully one or two pop up and they stick with the big club. So that's kind of how the filter works for the hockey leagues. But this team has every one of them that was ever playing on one team at once. So how did it work? Hierarchy of tough guys. Again, there's Brad Wingfield, which they talk about a lot in the documentary, but you also brought up Chad Wagner, who you said was brought. Tell me the Chad Wagner story, because people won't believe this.
All right, so it wasn't mentioned in the documentary, and I found this one really, really particular. So Chad Wagner, one day we're sitting in the war room. And Jimmy tells us, we've signed this guy, Chad Wagner. And we all looked at each other, all the captains. Nobody really knew him, I remember Ruman was in the meeting. There's Bruce, Mario LaRocque. And we signed this guy, Chad Wagner. And we're like, okay, great. We're thinking, maybe he's a player, but I highly doubt it. So, and our rivalry at the Adirondack Frostbite was so intense that Jimmy hated them so much. And it was all because of Mr. Melrose one day decided to run his mouth off in the rink and around some fans and calling Jimmy this, calling Jimmy that, and all but nice things. And it got back to Jimmy's ears, and a couple of his bodyguards met.
Nice things?
Melrose.
He called them nice things?
No, it wasn't nice things.
No, it wasn't nice things.
Let's say that the Italian word, the Italian culture wasn't being used the right way.
Okay, gotcha.
So Mr. Melrose was met up after the game and asked to meet Jimmy in his box, and Mr. Melrose never showed up again to an Adirondack game. Adirondack Danbury game in Danbury. So anyway, so we'll go back to Chad Wagner. Chad Wagner's brought in. It's WWE night. I'm hurt. I'm sitting in the stands with infamous John Cena.
By the way, another crazy thing you got to see in the documentary, which we're going to get previous to this, when AJ, the 17-year-old president general manager, is probably like 10 years old. I think his 10th or 11th birthday. I have it written down, but there's so many crazy things I've written down that I'm all over the map, because there's so many stories here. At his dad had, Mr. Gallante had means to do kind of what he wanted with money. For his 11th birthday, he brought in a bunch of wrestlers. He brought in China. He brought in Triple H. The Rock was there. And it's just, anyway, so now he's such a still fan of the wrestling. And I said Mighty Ducks and WWE now is what his life was. They have a John Cena night. And you're sitting in the stands watching this.
So I'm sitting there, I'm hurt. So I'm sitting there right next to John Cena. We're sitting in the box and we're, having a chat.
How big's he?
John Cena's about 6'4".
Oh, he's that big, eh?
Yeah, he's about 6'4". Yeah, bro, 6'3", 6'4". He was back jacked. Then just thick. Yeah, jacked. And he was the WWE champion at the time. So that was that was just being a sellout. And so Jimmy had a little surprise for everybody. So Chad Wagner was brought in, and like I said, Chad played a couple games, but didn't play much. Just under the radar, and line brawl breaks out on the ice, and everybody's into it. Everybody's this and that, 5 guys.
Hold on. How does the line brawl break out on the ice in Danbury? Was the gladiator given or not given?
Well, obviously the call was made before. The call was made before, and I think it was John Morassi that started the fight. He ended up grabbing, I think it was Bo Bennett that was playing in Adirondack, pretty tough kid. And I remember McIsaac grabbing, I think it was Burgess, this young kid, and McIsaac was just tossing him around the rink like a rag doll. Yeah, literally, they bouncing him off board to board. And like nobody else wanted to do nothing with all the other 5 guys on the ice, but they had no choice. So everybody was like kind of you
Holding
know,
on.
had their own guy where I'm
Right.
just watching, just looking at the team going, poor team, man. They're just getting their head beaten in, and the crowd is just going crazy. So now everything's died down. Penalties, everyone's in the penalty box. Penalty box is packed, both sides. Refs have no clue what's going on. Okay. They're trying to mark down names and trying to figure out things. Within about like a good 5 to 10 minutes, imagine 5 to 10 minutes of no playing and just playing music and the fans going crazy. Chad Wagner decides to leave the penalty box and beelines for the bench. Beelines for the goddamn bench. And I'm sitting there going, this is not happening right now. All right. And John Cena looks at me, he goes, you got to be effing kidding me that this is going on. He
He's
goes,
fucking kidding.
he had no clue that this was happening, you know?
Yeah.
So Chad Wagner beelines for the bench and dives in and grabs Mark Potvin by the tie.
The coach of the other team.
Yeah.
The rivalry coach who Mr. Gallante hated their owner. So Wagner runs their team and then runs out of the penalty box and onto their bench and grabs their coach by the tie. Got it.
So they started exchanging blows, but
The
now there's also
the coach and Wagner.
Yeah. So Mark Potvin, if you quick rundown, he played in the NHL. He's a pretty tough guy.
Yeah.
You know, God rest him. He passed away many years back, but pretty tough guy. And they start exchanging blows, and now the whole team jumps in, and everyone's exchanging blows. I'm sitting there going, never seen this in my life. Never seen a guy go beeline for the bench and try to fight a coach. Like, this is beyond slap shot. This is beyond any.
And he ends up getting suspended, not for 5 games, not for 10 games. He got suspended. And he gets suspended for life.
And banned from the United Hockey League. You didn't ever hear that too often back then, you know. Today you might hear something.
Actually, wasn't the Chiefs, were they not in the United? No, they were in the East Coast Hockey League, I believe, right? In the actual movie Slapshot.
Yeah,
they were in Slapshot. Yeah, not the. So there was back then, FYI, NHL, American Hockey League, and I mentioned there's all these other leagues, and there's some of them were just so tough. And of course, this United Hockey League is one of the stories. There's David Beauregard, the skill player, and AJ Gallante called One-Eyed Willie. David lost an eye playing junior hockey. I played against him, but a spectacular player with one eye, was unbelievable. Bruce Richardson, Ville St. Pierre kid right here in Montreal, now coaching the Armada in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. Tough year there, but he's been doing some great stuff in the hockey world. Roman Endure, the Nigerian Nightmare, another night in the documentary, he absolutely goes, I played with him and he was tough and super quiet. I see him in the video and the way he talks now in the documentary, as tough as they get, and he challenged an entire roster. Michael Rupp came down in 2005 during the National Hockey League lockout, and they wanted scoring. So AJ, being from around the New York area, Jersey, he was a huge fan of the New Jersey Devils. Michael Rupp got the playoff goal where Jersey knocks out Anaheim to win the Stanley Cup. He needs him on his team because he's that passionate about winning and having a guy like Mike Rupp. He could have had somebody else, but he gets Mike Rupp, and Mike Rupper is just an amazing guy. So these are just some of the names on this team. Chad Wagner, I mentioned the brothers, Mike and Drew Omiccioli. Is that close?
Yeah, Omiccioli, yeah.
Omiccioli, who were they there?
They played the second year. I played there the first year. The Twins were there the second year.
But one of the names, Brad Wingnut Wingfield. Can you just put in a couple what he was to the team? Because he is kind of if you watch a doc, it is kind of a lot of his story.
Yeah, it's basically what Danbury was about, right? Being tough and evil. And Brad Wingfield was a career minor leaguer that just basically terrorized and, fought his way through his whole pro career. Actually, half decent hockey player too, but just tough as nails, and fought every night and just enjoyed it. You never saw somebody fight so much. Actually, there was a couple of guys in that team that just enjoyed fighting all the time, but Brad would just was crazy, just crazy enough that if he could fight 6 times in a night, he would have fought 6 times in a night. You know,
What did guys take before games? Like when I played with a couple of guys. One guy was pretty funny. Again, I was super hyper. I didn't ever, I only took coffee after having my kids. Like I never had coffee till I was about 27, 28 years old. I wasn't one of those guys. I had caffeine. When I was down, I'd have a Diet Coke. That was but I played with players that took Rip Fuel back in the day. They were, and it was funny. One night we're playing and it's, Christoph Oliwa were with the Boston Bruins and he took a couple of Rip Fuel prior to the game. And Joe Thornton kind of starts giving it to him. He's like, come on, Oli, we need more from you. Get the Rip Fuel in you. And he's like egging him. And of course, you're the fourth line player at that time. And like I said, might have to fight a Wagner and Endure or someone at that next level. And they're pumping up Christoph Oliwa and he ends up taking like 6 Rip Fuels. And he's like 6'4", probably 230, like 5% body fat. And he is just on the bench. Of course, we don't play. Back then, the fourth line played like 3 to 5 minutes a night. He was just shaking the entire time. He was just shaking like this the entire time on the bench. And the guys were laughing so much at it. But that's I never really saw too many guys take anything. Mike Keane would take a caffeine drink. That's besides coffee. Everyone took coffee that I saw. I didn't really ever see much of anything else. Mike, like in your going to war every night, what did some guys take there?
Well, listen, everybody had their own rituals and stuff. You didn't see everything. Sometimes you'd question what the guys were on. I'm pretty sure you fought some guys and you're like, it's like beating down
you hit a guy with some nights. I landed one of my best punches ever, and I hit a guy and he didn't budge. And mind you, I'm small. I have small wrists. I'm not the heaviest guy, but when you hit a guy and he doesn't blink, it's like, oh shit.
Yeah, something's not right, so, and was drugs involved? I'm gonna say yeah, because I've seen guys take, it was, more of those cocaine days and stuff.
Right.
Now, was cocaine involved then? I don't really know unless I saw it in front of me, which I didn't, but there was this one guy, you mentioned, Garrett Burnett, and Garrett a bit there, playing against him and everything. One night I was in the bathroom, just washing my face, before the game.
You were sitting or shitting in the bathroom?
No, sorry.
What were you doing? No, it's okay. Hey, it's yeah.
I took my pregame shit, then I was washing my face.
We all did. Just so anyone listening doesn't look, it's a routine. Just so everyone knows, so before games, we'd all get all these stat sheets about, where everyone, it sucked because it all went by points and goals and the leaders and a description of the other team and the league notes. They're the league notes with your team. And on the front was the stats. And they were put in the bathroom because that's where everybody went to read them back then. And you'd have your pregame dump. And you get there 2 hours before a game and you'd go in and you'd read your stats. And that's it. So, but you weren't, you were actually cleaning your face. Go ahead.
No, I was after my shit.
Yeah,
but while I was reading the notes, let's say, I heard someone grunting in the bathroom, and I heard this, and I was like, some guy's making these funny sounds. So I finished reading my notes, started washing my hands and my face. And I turned beside me, and Garrett Burnett's got his claws and Flexol. You remember that Flexol?
Like the 8535 type of warm rub, right?
Well, I'm thinking he's going to rub down on his neck or his arms.
Yeah. Was it blue? Was it blue?
Yeah, it was blue.
It was blue.
Yeah. Takes a big gulp in his hands, and I'm thinking he's going to rub, puts it in his mouth and swallows it. When I look at him, I'm like, are you okay? He goes, yeah, I do this every game. It opens up my sinuses. I'm like, you do this every game?
Oh my God, that can't be good. I wish I had something. I could check it in my iPad, but what's the side effects of eating? Flexol. And every game.
Every game. And then he used to bathe himself in Vaseline. And I've never seen a guy go through like every couple game. He wasn't there. He used to put so
guys, back in the day, here's a great thing here, because back in the day, every team, there was no real rules for fighting. So when I play again, I tail end of my career, I started taping my wrist because my hands got bad, but I never altered a jersey, never did anything. But in the NHL, there wasn't many guys that did much besides altering their jersey. In the American Hockey League, it was a shit show, from guys putting hot sauce on their knuckles, other guys would Vaseline their faces, other guys would sharpen like parts of their helmet or have the screws pointing out. Guys would take their hockey stick, and I got to show you this here. Hold on. Give me my door. Take their stick and they'd sharpen the top part here. They'd razor it. So when they hooked you when they were back checking, they'd cut your arms open. It was a complete shit show. But you're saying he was taking a bath in Vaseline. Is that along the lines of like face or everything?
Yeah, I know, just the face and neck and everything. You know, I was just like, he had no shirt on, and you know,
like pregame or in general.
No, this was in pregame, and then you know, if between periods he'd go back in the bathroom and put on even more Vaseline. I was like, dude, you know, just waiting for his fight. Obviously, like you said, you know, these guys didn't play much, but when it was time to go, you know, he was ready. You know, he was ready. You know, Vaseline must have made a fortune off this guy, because I can never understand how much Vaseline you can actually put on your face. You know?
Just for FYI, people, boxers, they put Vaseline on their face as well. It is helps prevent cuts, but yeah,
the Flexol was probably you know, the kicker. I was like, wow. Just when you think you've seen everything, you see some guy eat some Flexol. I'm like, okay, you've been doing this for a while. He goes, yeah, I do this every game. And you know, Garrett's played for a long time too, you know,
so amazing. Sure you have sorry finish that on Garrett. Sorry, just
no, I'm saying
I'm so excited about so many of these stories is my problem. That's why, yeah.
So basically that's what it is, you know, just seeing that, you know, we were talking about, you know, guys doing things in the dressing room, you know, amongst in Danbury. I've got to say, the first team I ever played on where the gym was only used by all the tough guys. I've never seen the gym used so much on a hockey rink before the game.
Prior to the game.
Practice, before the game. Everybody pregame, you know, like you said, you take your pregame shit. Some of these guys were just doing their pregame pumps, you know.
Who would have been the toughest on that team? Who would have been the toughest guy if you had to pick one? Yeah, how about this? You're super tough, huge, big, strong. But if there was one guy on that team that you wouldn't have wanted to fight, you don't want to, I mean, you can do well against all of them, but if there was one that you said is probably stronger than others,
if I'd have to rate them, I'd probably go, you know, Morasti.
Yeah.
I've never seen a guy take a punch and just smile constantly over and over again. You know, you have to rank big Rumen in there. Wingfield, like 1, 2, like 1, 2 would be Brad and Nasty Rumen, and the other guy would be Dave McIsaac. He was a scary dude, man. He was a scary dude, just a large individual, just, you know, just like hurting people.
You just got a text. Is that tell me that's not the Gallante saying
yeah, it's it probably
yeah, no more. Yeah. So you guys had crazy stuff. And again, we're not doing it any justice because you actually have to see the footage of this. But he'd come in after nights. Would he just put money down on the table? Would he, like, there's rumors of like him coming in and be like, hey, great night tonight. Here's some money. Hey, go to dinner. Let's do this. Hey, let's go to a football game. Here's this.
Oh yeah, we'd have days there where, you know what, to come in, win this game, and here's X amount, and take it out to the bar.
What would be X amount?
You know, it could be anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. It's a pretty good night for a bunch of boys. You know, just a local bar. You know, having a couple beers, and you know.
You think so? $5,000 is an okay night in a bar?
Yeah, that's not bad. You know. Enough to get somebody into trouble, that's for sure.
So you're all these tough guys, but the first signing for this hockey team, the introduction of the Danbury Trashers to the world of the UHL, is Brett Gretzky. The first move they make before they go and get all these tough guys is they get Brett Gretzky. We got ourselves a Gretzky. Just not Wayne, it's Brett. What was it like playing with Brett? And as you mentioned, Walter Gretzky was around a lot.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I had played against Brent my first year in Elmira. He was playing in
Sure,
Fort
Brent.
Wayne,
Yes,
and
yeah, yeah.
he was he was playing in Fort Wayne, and he was, like I said, he's the Gretzky, right? Yeah, great following. Uh, really nice guy. Uh, you know, how would I put it? Hard to be the brother of Wayne
Yeah.
and
Eh?
play hockey.
How
Yeah,
how
just
are fans to him? How are fans to him?
oh, everyone was great. Everybody loved him, but it was always, you always heard the good old saying. So how's your brother doing? And
Right.
being Wayne's brother, I guess, some hard
Did
to
he
fill
ever?
in.
Does he have any like I don't want to say like it sucks to be Wayne's brother? Did he ever talk about that? Did he ever be like it's
Uh,
ever like not like it? And does he ever talk about how come Wayne was that much better than Brent? Like, is there ever that?
no, no,
No.
we've never had that conversation. I think probably he had that conversation before, just never had it with us. You know, getting to know him, he was a really nice guy. The fun part was his dad, Walter, used to come to the rink once in a while, and he used to sit in the lounge area, and he used to talk hockey, and just the stories that would come out of his mouth. Like I remember one day I missed practice. I literally missed practice and spoke to Walter the whole time, and just talked about the days of Wayne and stuff, and how he grew up and everything. And he was quite the individual. And he could speak to Walter Gretzky for hours and hours at a time, I think, and he'd never repeat the same story. You know, but
Uh,
yeah, like I said, you get Brent Gretzky, you sign him, already brings in a good fan base, and from there on, they brought in, more and more guys. And like you said, it was the year of the lockout, right? So they were
right.
trying to find the top stars in Detroit. Chelios and Sean Avery had signed Motor City. They were playing in the league too. They were playing part time.
Chelly.
Big Ken Belanger was playing in Richmond.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's some tough guys. What a crazy year. And again, we're not doing enough justice. You got to check it out on Netflix. But again, the story kind of came to an end in 2006 when James Gallante was charged with 72 various charges, included racketeering. One of the charges pertained directly to the Trashers was wire fraud, which resulted from interstate faxing of fraudulent salary cap documents. The Trashers had circumvented the UHL's 275,000 annual salary cap by giving players and their wives no-show positions within one of the disposable companies, or giving them housing allowance checks for sums that had already been paid. They guesstimated by $475,000 that they gave extra to the team. As you're smiling with your nice mirror behind you and your nice new sweater on you, he was sentenced to 87 months of imprisonment, had to forfeit his ownership interest in 25 trash hauling companies, a Southbury residence, 6 racing cars, a trailer used to haul them, 448,000 in cash, and his home business office. And amongst all of that, the Trashers were disbanded. What happened to you in year two?
Year two, I just
You did not go like
basically
how did year one end, and how did you guys reflect on what just happened that year?
basically year two ended. We lost in the conference final to Muskegon, and they ended up winning the championship. And being so tough, just it was hard to play hockey. It's just hard to play hockey just because we were, you'd average so many penalty minutes a game. I think we averaged a total of like 38 to 39 minutes a game in penalties. So you're basically spending 2 periods in the box and just killing penalties the whole time. But
That's crazy.
playoff time,
Right.
there's no fighting, and it was tough. It was tough to play. They knew teams started to understand, what to get, how to get us off our game was to, piss off the right guy, and he'd be in the box right away. So, and then we're killing penalties. So we kind of, ran into that problem. Year two,
You moved on
just
though.
again,
You moved on after year one, and like
yeah,
you survived it, moved on to play after that.
yeah. I
And
went over to Europe. Well, finally, I made the jump over to Europe like every other minor leaguer does
yep.
after a while.
Like,
you know,
is it a
text it over
story
to
that you guys talked about? Like, do you guys text back? Like, remember that shit show in Danbury? Like when he got arrested, did you guys think anything of it? Like, was there, has anything
Oh yeah,
happened?
we all got we all got who got called by the FBI, who got called by the
Right.
IRS.
Yes.
So there were a lot of questions being asked. I remember I got a notice from the IRS saying that I owed money and stuff, and
Did you have to pay it?
yeah, yeah, it was back taxes. We had to pay for all that stuff. Some of the guys were interviewed by the FBI because obviously they were on some wiretaps or whatever. Who knows what was going on, And it was kind of like as much as we knew what was going on. Finally, until it does happen, you kind of like you're really shocked, you know. And no one was really answering questions back then because nobody really knew what was going on. Once everything got seized, everybody basically cut ties, you know. But I remember telling people like, now this documentary came out this year. Remember, this is like in 2004, 2005. They used to
Right.
tell stories about this all the time, and nobody actually believed us.
You couldn't believe
You
it.
know?
I heard it. I heard about it, but I still didn't believe it at the time. I was like, whatever.
But, and
Anyways.
I remember playing that year in the American Hockey League, getting called up for a couple games, and I was sitting next to Eric Goddard, tough guy that played with the
Islanders.
Islanders,
Yeah.
Pittsburgh,
Pittsburgh.
He looked at me one night and said, I would never want to come and play against that team. And, Eric Goddard was pretty tough. I guess
Yeah.
I'd never want to walk into that building and actually play against you guys because that was the most ridiculous lineup I've ever seen in my life.
You survived the U-Haul. You survived playing in Europe. One you did play. The agent that actually didn't set you up in U-Haul, to make a little transition, talk about a little about Nick Bilotto, what's going on in your world today. Your agent back then was Kent Hughes, which
just before I started playing in the U-Haul there, Kent Hughes was representing me, and I think after bouncing around the minors a bit, we kind of parted ways just because really didn't need an agent back then after,
right.
but Kent and Junior repped me, and obviously, good on him where he is today.
What do you think of where he is today?
Hey, great spot, great. It's a great challenge. I'm happy for him. He's got his hands full, I think, to make that team better.
What do you think of what do you think of the Montreal Canadiens? What would be the first? Give me two things you'd do to that team.
Right now, I think
there's so many.
Yeah,
things.
so many. I think right now, just change the message. I think coach has got to go.
Yeah.
Coach
Can you do that?
Go.
It's one of the things that I'm like, if you change it now, they're paying two coaches for another couple. Like, do you wait till the year's done and then just reset everything? Or do you try and reset it now? That's kind of the thing that I'm stuck with. You bring a guy, you go with an interim coach. Again, I think the team is so flawed because of the previous general manager. So I don't know how much this coach is to be blamed. Obviously, there are issues internally with some of the veterans not giving their 100%. So that's a terrible, frustrating part as well. The team hasn't been healthy. They don't have top two centers. They're missing their top couple of they're missing their top two goalies. Their first round pick is a disaster. There's so many things that are wrong with this team. I don't know how much of it I can blame the coach with, but they're just not playing.
As you know, Pete, it's not just the coach. Like, it's not the coach's fault. Sometimes the easiest thing to do is to change the coach.
Right.
I'm gonna throw something out there. Last year in playoffs, and again, Dom's a great guy. I actually know Dom really well.
Yeah.
I just don't think the message gets through to some of the vets and some of the players. Remember last year when Luke Richardson was behind the bench? I found the Canadiens played better when he was behind the bench. Everything seemed calmer.
Right.
And,
I agree. I find it's, I think, as you know, former player, actually, you're also an agent today with the Sports Corporation. Some of the messages that you talk to your players that, listen, you might not agree with the coach, but this is what he's doing. Have your conversations with him for the game, stick to his program because we're all on it, and and after the game, let's have this conversation, or during the week. There's guys that have come out and said, like a Jeff Petrie, that we're not connected with the coach and this isn't working. And then it follows what he says to the way he's been playing and the team's been playing on the ice. So do we blame the coach, or do we blame some of the veterans? Do we blame the message? I agree with you with the Luke Richardson thing, but it was such a small sample size of 3
Yeah,
last year. So
it's easier to say, like everything looks easier, like when you look in the past, but overall I find just like you got to start somewhere, but there's that, obviously I always find that the team has to play a little tougher, for the little guys to have more room on the ice. They got some small players up front.
what about signing Wingnut? What about getting AJ to run this team? What about if AJ comes in and be the assistant to Kent Hughes?
There you go. AJ Gallante being assistant Kent Hughes. I think that
he seems like such a good kid though in the documentary. Like he's just that kid that grew up kind of oblivious to life and just happy go lucky. And anyways,
he made he made the best out of it, and he got he's gotten good at what he's doing. I talked to him quite a bit, and he's a boxing promoter and stuff, and he does pretty good for himself, and I'm pretty sure he misses hockey, but he obviously can't be buying minor league teams and doing the same thing he did with the Danbury Trashers anymore, unfortunately.
But you were telling me actually off air that he's involved with a Ice Wars, which was around years ago, and it's making a comeback. Just explain it to what it is and what your potential involvement could be.
Well, I was approached right before the holidays there, and someone had told me that the Ice Wars was coming back, and Ice Wars is basically it's gladiators on skates, two guys squaring off. And as you know, PJ, it's hockey fight doesn't last very long. It's not a 3-minute round. It's not a 5-minute round. Fight may last 5, 10. If you fight for a minute, you're gassed.
Minute's crazy. It's 20 seconds pretty much of go get them.
That's it. So the Ice Wars, I think the rules were you fought 2 rounds of 1 minute, and you just basically threw bombs. And it was haymakers and probably not much defense going on, and winner basically is the guy that's standing after the 2 rounds. So, and
AJ is bringing this back.
Yeah, so AJ supposedly wants to bring it back. He's met with the original owners of Ice Wars, and they've made a joint venture, and he wants to bring it back. And he's bringing in, I've heard, like weight categories. He's bringing in different sets of rules to a certain point to make sure the guys are kind of safe. But basically bringing UFC on the ice, pretty much. Guys will be fighting. Guys will be fighting, trying to kill each other for it's 2 minute, 1 minute. It's 2 1-minute rounds. They got to wear UFC gloves, and you start off with hockey gloves on, and you square off. You drop your gloves, and then you fight.
And you're going to be involved with it potentially as a ref?
I was asked. I was potentially asked to be a ref, and I thought it would be actually pretty fun just to see how that actually would play out. So I said, yeah, why not? We're waiting to hear a little more info on it. But the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of traction on it. So hopefully we'll get more info as time comes. I think they want to do it in April or May. So it's coming soon.
So referee for the Ice Wars, you're also working with the Sports Corporation. Also, you're working with Bilotto Hockey Performance on the ice with kids all the time, teaching. What's a day like in your world today?
Day in my world. Get up, always on the phone. Agent world is a competitive business these days, and trying to make your name. I work with a great company. A lot of support from them. My region's Quebec and the Maritimes, and some parts of the United States. Jerry and Manny and Scott Bonner are the guys I work with out west. They're really well established. The company's been around over 25 years. One of the bigger companies around the world. Rep guys like some of the Montreal Canadiens guys. We have Carey Price, Brendan Gallagher, Joel Armia, Lekin.
Great contracts. Your agent has some amazing contracts. Oh my God. Those are some of the Armia one. Oh man. Oof. He walks around with this on. Yeah. 4 years at 3.4. What a mess. Anyways, so that's all day. And you're also on the ice.
Yeah, so after playing hockey, I got into hockey development, helping the kids out and stuff, trying to give back. And the world of hockey the industry has gotten really big, and hockey development. If you can help the kids, back in our day, we did a lot on our own, but today, the skill set on some of these kids, because they're working with hockey trainers, anywhere from 2 to 3, 4 times a week. So it's a really big business, and I thought I'd get myself into it. Having a pretty good background in the game and stuff, and I thought that I'd give back and help the kids reach their potential.
What's the one thing that kids need to work on today that gets overlooked?
Learning the game.
Yeah.
Skill set is absolutely off the charts. I got kids. I train kids that have better skill that I had at their age, and some of the things they even do with the stick and puck today is just unbelievable. Just that they don't watch the game anymore. Their hockey smart isn't there. So you got to teach them that. I have the honor to actually coach. I coach Adam AA 2011 kids, and that's what I try to teach my kids, is basically structure of the game, where they're not taught that, how to play their positions, just the basic things, the fundamentals of learning the game itself. If they learn that at a young age, I find that they'd be better, like much better hockey players once they reach Bantam, midget, and junior. Our biggest thing is when I send a kid to play major junior, I usually talk to the GMs and the coaches all the time, and they're like, "Hey, we got to teach this kid basically how to play hockey again."
Right.
You're like, that's crazy, man. Like, this kid's playing hockey his whole life and he hasn't learned.
I was speaking to Bobby Holik last night. Bobby Holik he does the same thing, and he says the one thing that separates good from great, and at every level, it's how quickly you can process what's going on in front of you. These kids, everyone's fast, everyone can shoot, everyone can skate, everyone has a skill set. But what is going on the ice, and how do you bring it into your mind, and then tell yourself this is what has to be done, and this is where we got to go. Listen, I know you got to go. You're going on the ice actually today, so I'm going to wrap it up with little rapid fire. Paul Bissonnette took about a half hour per answer. You have about 5 seconds per answer. What's your guilty pleasure?
Chips.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Sweet Caroline.
What is
Actually, sorry. I'm taking that back. Friends in Low Places.
Oh, that's good. Two very good songs.
Yeah,
What's your last Google search? Watch.
Actually, Chad Wagner. I had to go back to that.
Yeah. Chad Wagner. What was your last impulse buy?
Impulse buy. Crazy. I'm thinking about it right now. Impulse buy.
Watch clothes.
I want to laugh a hockey stick.
Hockey stick. Which celebrity annoys you the most?
PJ Stock. I know. I'm Sarah.
I'm on the list, which means I'm a celebrity. Yes, awesome. What is not a big deal the most, but it's kind of torture to you? What's
people that don't understand the game of hockey?
Oh, yes, that is. Oh, I'm with you. What world record do you think you'd have a shot at beating?
You know what? I always want to join the Nathan hot dog eating competition. I think I can take those guys to school.
I used to be able to eat 12 easily. And I'm half the size of you. How many think you look like Shrek a little? How many think you can have?
I can probably dummy about a good 20 some odd dogs before I even twitch.
Like, if you had the steam A's, steam A's are easier, or the toast A's at the Bell Center. What are you steam A or toast A?
You know what? The toast A is good, man. I played the Colisée when I played junior, and I had to have a couple of those when I was hurt. Those were good, but the steamies, are the ones I guess are in the competition. But I think I'd be able to take those to town.
Favorite all-time movie?
Goodfellas.
Not saying anything. I'm just gonna move on. What should not be on a Christmas or Thanksgiving table that is there now? Or what do you recommend?
Turkey. Can't stand it.
You don't like turkey? So what
the worst food ever. I've never eaten a food where you eat it and you feel terrible after. Is that normal? Eat so much
what
of it,
about
you feel
12 hot
terrible.
dogs? What about 12 hot dogs? How does that make you feel?
Yeah, but that's a world record, man. I'll be known for.
Who wins the cup this year?
Good question. Good question. Gonna have to go. I don't know, man. I watched Colorado play last night, and I think they may have something there.
Yeah, they have Kill McCarr is something to watch. Just something to
Yeah.
watch. Anyways, I know you're
Yeah.
blowing up. I know you're getting texts. I know you got to go work. Check it out. The show that we're referencing is on Netflix. Nick Bilotto. Actually, you're lucky. You don't really have any. You're not in it. I don't know. Like, I don't see much of you. I saw Bruce Richardson at one point, and I saw him skating off. But it's called Untold Crime and Penalties. Thanks a ton for doing this. Of course, Nick's working with the kids at Bilotto Hockey Performance, also an agent if you want to reach out at the Sports Corporation. Again, Gallagher Price, he has a bunch of players that they're well represented. And if you want to get overpaid like he's been able to do, that company has just for the Canadians alone, Kent Hughes is former agent. Thanks a ton for doing this. Best of luck in everything else you're doing. And good luck refereeing Ice Wars.
We'll see what happens there. But Peach, thanks for taking this time. It's awesome. Good seeing you. Talk soon.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, bud. That was. We'll stop it. Fuck. We could have went on like. Oh my god.
Yeah.